treat, but we haven't officially introduced Felix to the team on our team call. And so I want you guys to I'll let Felix introduce himself, share a couple words. But before I do that, I've known Felix for the past 9 months now, and we've gotten really, really close. Felix has been in insurance much longer than I have. He knows how to build and scale corporate sales teams. And since we've been partnered together and since he's been a part of our group, I gotta say how much of a blessing it's been. You could talk to any of our directs that worked with Felix. He's already just in just the past week alone provided a ton of value to everybody. So I want to introduce Felix to you guys because I would encourage you to. We brought him on as to help perpetuate and help excel and grow all of your guys' businesses. And so Felix is he's a part of our staff. We brought him on and we brought him onto the team to think like, who's the best? And I've been looking for somebody like Felix for a long time, and I just haven't found him. But I'm thinking of like, who's the best person we can bring on to help accelerate all of your guys' businesses. And so I would encourage you, if you haven't reached out to Felix or even talked to him, and maybe you're struggling or need help or just need a different perspective on your business, I would encourage you guys to reach out to Felix, and leverage him in your business because he's very sharp. He's sold on a high level, and he's mentored and trained people for many years. So, with that being said, Felix, I'll let you officially introduce yourself, brother.
Brother, thank you for those kind words. Happy Wednesday, everybody. So first and foremost, it is a true blessing to be part of this team. Extremely grateful for the opportunity to work alongside each of you. Claudia, Jonah, and the entire leadership team just opening the doors for my wife and myself. We actually just moved to the Tampa Bay area last week. So we are fully in, just settled in. But most importantly, I always like to just share some perspective with you all. Been doing this for 12 years now, but most importantly, what matters the most is I always say the people that you're doing it with. And my main vision on this team and with you all is to not only teach you how to sell, because I think we all know how to sell, we are all very skilled, but how can you build a profitable, how can you be in this business with longevity and build careers out of this, right? We typically focus on what we do best, which is mortgage protection and life insurance. But our mission and our goal is to show you, each of you, how you can also build different verticals within the business, providing opportunities for others. So one of the main goals that John and Claudia have tasked me with is how to build the infrastructure and the back end operations for Prosper so we can keep providing value as you guys continue to grow. Because we never want you guys to feel that you are in a place where you don't have, you have a ceiling. We want to make sure that you have a way and a career path that once you hit certain targets, you will be provided and you will have access to different resources as far as either call centers, mentoring from other people outside the organization that have done this at a high level. So we can attract not only that talent, but we can grow together. So I've already been reaching out to a lot of you, just getting your feedback, and you're going to see a lot of collaboration. One of my main things coming from the corporate world is removing the silos. Sometimes by mistake, we let ego and pride get in the way of the purpose, and we start separating and working in like different countries within the same organization, like I like to call it, different islands. So one of the main things that you see in the next 30, 60, 90 days is how we come together and integrate and leverage each of our strengths as a leadership group. So excited to be here. I'm going to put my phone number here. I'm an open book. I share my strengths, but also I'm very vulnerable. And one of the things that have helped me be here is just connecting with people. So I'm going to share my number here in the chat. Feel free to reach out. I'll also be reaching out to you guys within the next 2 weeks or so. And thank you for the opportunity. I'll pass it back to you, Jonah. And excited about this call. I've met Cruz back in the Idaho leadership trip, and I'll tell you, beast. So excited to be part of this team.
Absolutely. Guys, show Felix some love in the chat. Show Felix some love if you're excited to have him a part of the team. But I do want to give a shout out to a couple agents though. where and shout out to Thomas. I believe Thomas had a $22,000 week. Kobe, shout out to Kobe. Kobe's always cranking, did 20K. Lewis and Mo, they're both at 17K for last week. Jenny's on the call. Shout out to Jenny. I saw she did 15K. And we also had a few new agents. So Josh Noles, look, Josh Noles terms telling me he did 18K last week. Is Josh on the call? He's on the call. Shout out to Josh. Blake finally. Shout out to Blake. Blake finally went full time. I've been telling him to quit. It took him forever, but he did 8K. And lastly, shout out to Mark Sosin. He closed his first policy, and it was a $6,000 premium this morning. So shout out to Mark. That's huge. But without further ado, Claudia, if you could pin our guest today. We got Cruz on the team call, boys.
Bro, what up?
What up, brother?
How we
How we-
doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well.
Good, good.
So, Cruz, at this point, everybody on the team knows you. But for those that don't, when was your first month here?
First month was like May.
May. It
Yeah.
was like May, beginning of June.
Hmm?
Okay. I want to give a shout out to Cruz because not only is he a beast on the phones, but also our leadership retreat. Him and Ronnie, they were leading those workouts and they were pushing past. And a lot of all sales is just mental. It's mental right here. And so if you can stay, I think it's a testament and a good example to all of us is like it's funny because you see that people that take the best care of their bodies are in the best shape. They typically perform very high in business because they're directly correlated. So when you have a high level of discipline with your body, your fitness, working out, well, that's just going to naturally flow into your business and you're going to perform on a high level too. So I remember I was in Jersey last weekend and Cruz calls me. He's like, what was your biggest week? And I was like, 33.1K or 32.1K. And Cruz is like, bet. He's like, guess what? You're not gonna believe it. I said, well, what, bro? He's like, I just did 33. I just beat your record. So guys, drop some love for Cruz in the chat for now creating the largest personal best week within our entire agency. So that's huge. 33K all approved, right?
All but one. One's still in underwriting.
Ooh, So that doesn't get if that
It's
gets
not it's not a big one. It's not a big one. It's
if
not
that
gonna
gets
make it.
declined, I might have the
No.
record.
No.
But in all seriousness, bro, I just wanna give it to you. And my first question is, what really made it click for you to get it into gear? Because it's different for everybody. I see some agents come in and it's like boom, right first day, right off the rip, like Mark this morning, like close 6K deal. I'm like, I love to see that. That's awesome. Other people like myself, it takes a little bit longer. So like, what was that click where you're like, all right, dude, I got my sales process down. I figured out the system and I figured out my pitch and I can do this.
Really, like in those first few sales, like having like building that confidence, understanding that you can do just as good as, anyone else in this company. And it doesn't have to take you a year or two to get to that point was the biggest thing for me, and understanding, what works best for yourself, because not everyone's sales process is going to be the exact same. People have their strong suits, people will succeed in different ways. So understanding what works best for you, and also looking around at, the people around you who are doing really well in this industry, and noticing that they're not better than you in any way, and you can do exactly what they're doing.
Yep. Yeah. Where it's that healthy balance of ego. Because if we're
Yeah.
being honest, we all have an ego. But how can you properly manage that? Where if you let your ego get out of control, it's funny because I've experienced this personally in my life. It's anytime I get egotistical or I think I got it all figured out, God's got a funny way of checking me. He's like, actually, you don't know shit. And he's like, I'm gonna humble you real quick. But also it's you have to have that certain level of self-confidence and belief in yourself. Like, hey, dude, if Johnny or Andrew or Nathaniel, if they can do it, they don't have anything more special than I do. They don't have any special innate talent or ability. So if they're doing it, there's no reason I can't do what they're doing or even better. And so That's huge. What are you, we were on the phone before this. I'll let you share it. What's your goal this month to do?
I'll do like 80 to 100.
80 to 100. What's the breakdown? What is your plan for that? What's the roadmap? What's the schedule gonna look like? What are the inputs, etc.?
Exact same thing I've been doing. Just I've noticed that I think the biggest thing for me that's changed in like the last few weeks is actually spending enough money on leads. Because before I was just like getting around with like 700 a week on leads, and then I'm doing now probably like 900 to 1500. Um, and it's just consistent schedule. Like I'm in the office, I'm literally pissed off until I've made money that day. Like I'm not talking to anyone. I'm not getting up from my chair. I won't even eat a lot of the times until I've made a sale that day. Like it's from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., no breaks until, I've made money. So I think that was definitely, the gonna be the biggest thing. And it's realizing also that it's not that hard. Once you get like your sales process down, it's not like you're just destroying yourself mentally, physically, and like grinding like 15, 18 hours a day. It's literally just getting good at what you're good at already. And find like dialing in the fine details of everything. And once you're able to do that and you're legitimately like, what you're doing, uh, it's not that hard. Like I did 30K last week. I didn't feel like I worked extra at all. I didn't feel like I, did anything crazy. It was just, being consistent with the stuff I say I'm going to do. And, it pays off in the end. It's always going to show. Um, and you can't expect that either, your first month into the business, because unless you've had some kind of like other sales in the past and you've done something like this before, because it takes time to learn and you have to, really find out what works best for you. So, hitting 80, 100K, it's just doing the same thing as I've been doing.
Yeah, yeah. Where you made a few great points that I want to hit off of. First of all, you said it's really not hard, which I agree. And you let me know how it was for you. You may agree or disagree, but for me, getting like figuring out going from 0 to 20K was a lot harder for me from going to 0 to 20 than it was for me to go from 20 to 100. Because 0 to 20, you're figuring out the process, you're figuring out the right tonality, verbal pacing, you're still finding your footing, gaining confidence, learning how to communicate on the phones, maintain control of the sale, build the why. Like, there's all these different pieces to the puzzle that you're trying to put together. But then, dude, like once you've done 20K, 30K, it's like you've had enough conversations, you've sold enough policies where it's like, all right, I got this. And then from there, it's very simple. It's just about doubling down on like what you said, doubling down on the work ethic, doubling down on the lead spin, and doubling down on the inputs.
Yeah.
And I like what you said too, where, and I want to emphasize one thing before I bring that up, was you didn't come from sales before this. So it's not like you've been doing door-to-door sales for 10 years.
I honestly never thought I'd be good at sales because I'm kind of introverted. So I don't like really go out of my way to talk to people. But sales has been the best thing for me that I've ever done for myself, for sure.
What's crazy is a lot of times introverts are the best salespeople.
Yeah.
You know why?
Why is
Because
that?
because they know how to listen. Because a lot of people, some people from the outside that have never done sales, they perceive sales as, oh, being a really good communicator, or being really good with your words, or having a fancy pitch. But that's not at all what being good at sales is. Being good at sales is actively listening to the client and understanding their needs and understanding their situation. Like that's why that financial inventory sheet is so critical, is so important. And the analogy I was just talking this with a few of our guys where we all know at this point that the agent that's trying to switch up their process, switch up the script, those people are going to continually struggle and not find success. So it's 90% the same sales process. But once you get to that financial inventory, that client worksheet, well, that's when you can, like if you've done your job correctly, you turn on your brain, you actively listen, and then that's when you assess, you analyze, and you figure out what's the best way I can properly help and serve this client, and what's the best way I can position this. And so it takes a certain level of just being able to understand and like emotionally connect with the client. So what do you
Psychology, I think in my opinion, is one of the biggest things. Like, because if you can get past the initial like 2 minutes of the conversation, there should be no reason why. If you have the knowledge that you need to sell the product, there should be no reason why you can't close somebody.
Yeah, yeah. And listening to you on the phones when we were in the office in Arizona, in the Tampa office, one thing I've picked up and I've noticed from you is you're very good at getting people to trust you and connecting with them. So what are some tangible tips that you'd give to everybody listening to this to like build better rapport, not only build better rapport, but build the right rapport with clients and increase the trust barrier?
I think the biggest thing is, first off authority, but second off, sounding like you're professional, sounding like, you are like the main person they should be talking about something like this. Um, and instantly if you can get that persona like to their point of view and have them understand that, it instantly builds that trust. So displaying that is honestly brought me the biggest success. Tonality is a huge thing because I talk pretty loud when I talk to people. I actually had a guy in the car that I closed the other day, and I was asking him, he was like, it's crazy. He was like, I've hung up a million of these calls. I was like, well, why didn't you hang up on me? And he was like, honestly, your tone of voice. He was like, it got me intrigued, and I stayed on the phone a little bit, and I ended up selling him a his and hers, switching his policies. So tonality is huge. So understanding like if you're a woman or a man, understanding what sounds best coming from the other side of the phone, and try and do exactly that. Because if you're just all soft and quiet and sound like, just scared little kid, they don't trust you, obviously. It sounds like, it's your first day on the job, you're just someone actually reading off a script, and, you're just doing what everyone else has done that's called them. So finding a way you can stand out from 95% of the other insurance agents in the US, that's gonna get them to trust you and get them to stay on the phone with you is the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we don't need to go through the full process, but you want to give us a quick intro of that, of call me like I'm a lead, and just to hear that first initial snapshot of like the correct tonality you use to gain trust.
Yeah, so I don't read off the script, if I'm being completely honest. I've kind of done my own thing where I take all the key points from the script and kind of turn it my own thing. Um, but it's like, hey, John, this is Cruz Dreiling. I'm calling. I manage the brokerage that handles all the, life insurance, mortgage protection files for so and so. Just to confirm you're still living at this property, correct? Okay.
Yep.
So for some reason here on my end, the file I have for you is not really coming up with anything. I don't really have any notes in my system, so I figured I'd shoot you a call, check in, see how things went here in the past. And I'm dialing a lot of like 12 to 24 month leads. Um, and then from there, I kind of pivot. And I'm like, I know about a year or two after you guys closed on that home, one of my underwriters probably got you taken care of, or talked to you about getting set up with one of those policies, right? And then if they're like, yeah, I did, okay, perfect. That explains why it's coming up as incomplete. So when a junior underwriter takes care of you, we're supposed to list down our system the details and coverage details of that policy they got you. And then from there, you built that trust because they think that you manage that brokerage. It was one of their junior underwriters that took care of them. And then you're also grabbing the current policy that they have. And then from there, you're able to pivot, see what kind of position they're in, if you can put them in a better position.
Yeah, absolutely. A
And the
few things.
reason why I say life insurance as well
Go ahead.
is because so many people, especially when you're dialing old leads, they have been called millions of times from people saying, hey, I manage the mortgage protection. They hear the word mortgage protection, it just triggers them, and they just get angry, and they just are like, I'm not interested. And they just want to hang up the phone. So that's why I say life insurance and then mortgage protection, because it's like the best of both worlds. Because some people may not want to deal with mortgage protection, but they want life insurance. So I've kind of understood, like found out that works a lot of the time, and kind of went in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And another thing I want to point out that something important that you said was your schedule isn't crazy. You're not like, hey, dude, I'm here in the office from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. to do that. You're there from 7 to 5. And I will bet that if we compared your inputs to anybody else's, your inputs from 7 to 5 p.m. are more than a lot of agents that are in the office for 12 hours a day. So it's not about, no, just to clarify, it's like, it blows my mind the agents that are in the office for 12 hours and then they complain about not having, I'm like, dude, you basically, yeah, because you hung out all, you, what, if I Cruz, if I came to you and said, hey, bro, you want to come hang out in the office for free and not make money? Nobody would do that.
We
But
got a
like
pretty cool office here, so sometimes
some people might, I wouldn't. It's like we're here to work. And
True.
a lot of you have heard the quote where in the short term, your success depends on your intensity. In the long term, your success depends on your consistency. So consistency is everything. And you've shared this with me before. This isn't the first time you brought it up where you said, hey, bro, I'm pissed when I walk in the office before I get a sale. I don't talk to anybody. And I've seen you. It's like head down, you're in the zone, don't talk to me. And I was the same way. I had a sign in the first office in my Lawler office. Everybody knew I would come in the office at 7 a.m. to make my first dial at 7:30. I wouldn't leave my office. I wouldn't go to the bathroom. I wouldn't eat until I got my first sale. And everybody knew from 7 a.m. to noon is unless you're in a presentation, don't bother Jonah. And a sign that says F off, I'm dialing on my front door. And so, but when you're at that stage in your business where you're at is that's the level of intensity you guys need to have. So it's not necessarily, oh, like how many hours I was in the office or this or that, but it's what is the level of intensity in your business and what do your inputs look like? Because I would much rather, yes, you need to work hard, but more just as importantly, if not more importantly, you also need to work smart and be efficient with your time and make the most out of every hour of the day.
I think a lot of it's having a little bit of grit, um, especially like I think in our society there's so much justification in just being average or whatever it may be, and it's understanding that like you have the ability to not be average and you shouldn't accept being average in any way, and to have the financial freedom or the freedom that I'm assuming everyone wants, you have to make money. And at the end of the day, if you're not making that or doing exactly what you need to do to get to that point, you're not doing everything in your power, and you're kind of just letting yourself down. Um, so that's the biggest thing for me. And it's like I have all my friends, my closest friends are in this office, and I could just be chatting it up with them all the time, just messing around. Which I mean, we have our times, but like I'm fully locked in whenever before I've made money that day, and I'm working nonstop. I literally will not, get away from that anyway until I've made the money for that day. And it's really just understanding what your goals are. Like if your goals are just make, 5, 10K a month, then yeah, sure, you can do those things. But if you don't want to be average and you want to succeed at a high level, you have to have a little bit of grit and, have a little bit of determination that, you'll do anything you need to do to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a good way to put it. You have to have grit in this business and you got to be able to take the bull by the horns because the agents that come in and they're like, I don't know, it's, maybe this, maybe that. Poverty loves indecision. Poverty loves uncertainty. And so ignorance on fire will outproduce knowledge on ice every day of the week. Like I've seen agents come in and they know all the products, they know all the benefits. They're super knowledgeable and they know everything, but they don't find success. And I've seen other people come in where they don't know anything, but they just get on the phones and they're at it, at it, at it, at it. And clients, they don't, we've all heard the saying, but it's one of my favorite quotes. We need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. Clients really don't care how much you know. Clients don't know how much, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so listening to your success is, I'm not like you obviously you're very knowledgeable and you know your stuff, but before that, you're showcasing your empathy and you're showcasing concern and you're building rapport in the right way for clients. So my question to you, Cruz, is what would you say to the agent right now where they're not hitting their production goals? They're like, man, dude, I want to be producing 20, 30K a week. I want to be doing 40, 50, 80 grand a month. but they just haven't found their stride yet, what would you tell that agent?
Full honesty,
Yes, full honesty.
just lock the fuck in. It's as simple as that. Like, like I said, have some fucking grit and just do what you need to do. You know exactly what you need to do. And, learning things will come with time. Like if you're locked in and you're doing, that, 7, 8, 9 hours of just fully, being on the phones locked in, you'll lose sales. Maybe if you're not, completely educated on what everything is or, what to say, but you will learn from every single phone call that you have. And if you put those things you did incorrectly on that phone call and basically put them into another call and correct those, you'll slowly start to realize what works. But it's simple. Like people overcomplicate it and be like, "Yo, what's the sauce? Like, what do you got to do?" It's literally just being locked in and having determination to get shit done whenever you need to. Like no one is special. That's the biggest thing. It's just learning from past experiences, past phone calls, and finding out what you can put reiterate into the next phone call. That's going to give you that success.
Mhm.
Not changing every time either.
Well said. Well said. And to capitalize on to add to what you said too, it takes being able having the discernment to channel your emotion in the right direction. Because let's be honest, we're salespeople. A lot of us are highly emotional. So
Sure.
there's the right way to channel that and there's the wrong way. The wrong way to channel that is like, oh, I didn't make a sale, like, oh, I suck. These leads suck, I suck, business suck, like blaming other people. But the right way is like, man, dude, I didn't close that. I don't like this feeling. I'm gonna make sure this doesn't happen again, and I'm gonna work on developing myself and increasing my skill set so I don't run into the same problem. The definition of insanity is continually doing the same thing over and over and over again. And so I like what you like Joe got on our leadership call a couple months ago, and he told us, he said, never once have I told you, oh, just focus on the inputs. Just focus on the activity. A lot of people say that. Joe said, you've never heard me say that. You know why? Joe said, because I'm here to freaking win, dude. I'm here to win. And results matter. Because talk is cheap. Talk is freaking cheap. Like you see some agents, and based on the way they talk, you think they're a top producer. You think they were God's gift to our earth. But then you look at their issue pay reports, you're like, oh dude, it's you did 7 grand last month. What are you doing? Or I'm not gonna name names, but there's one agent that's no longer here, and he came to me. He's like, honestly, Jonah, dude, I'm just way too good at sales to not be having success. I'm like, bro, if you're way too good at sales and not be having success, you wouldn't be broke. You'd be producing. So just figuring out like it's a simple business. Like there's the right way to channel your emotions and the wrong way. So don't get in your head, but also don't suppress that emotion either. Don't be like, oh, it's okay. Like, maybe I'll get it now. Like, no, dude, it's like I'm here to help families. I'm here to win. I want to produce. And at the end of the day, this is a business. And I'm gonna
Yeah,
make
I
this
mean,
money.
biggest thing for me is like I allow myself to be mad for a second because if you're just like whatever, then you kind of just won't care about it, and you should care because you obviously need to correct something like 90% of the time. But allow yourself to be mad for a second, and then just move on. Like allow it to piss you off. Don't allow it to piss you off in like your tonality and how much you're working. Allow it to piss you off to where it makes you work more and makes you want to sell even more, so you're working even harder to get that next sale.
Yep. Absolutely.
Big difference.
Absolutely. I wanna transition this into this morning in the office. I had James Teller came to me. He's like, "Hey, can we go over like policy replacements?" And so that was the topic of our office training this morning. And we were talking, and that's how you're able to get a lot of your sales too. So I think that'd be really helpful to elaborate off of that is you going through and sharing is what is your process on how to successfully put somebody in a better position if they already have a life insurance policy.
So it's very simple. I feel like a lot of the times, a lot of the not interested people that you'll get instantly on the phone are because they have a policy. So the easiest way to get around that is you call them, you say your, first 10 seconds of it, and they're like, yeah, not interested. And when, as soon as they say not interested, yeah, I'm actually calling you about the policy you got set up with one of my underwriters. And then from there, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember that. And then you can find those coverage details, allow them to tell you. And then from there, it's just knowledge. It's just understanding what carriers offer, what products, asking those simple questions of, is cash value important to you? Is living benefits important to you? Is covering the whole mortgage just for the mortgage term important to you? Or is it having a coverage that's actually going to last the rest of your life? Is that important to you? But the biggest thing is for sure just getting around that initial not interested. I had a guy yesterday. He had a, I called him. He's like, yeah, no, I'm good. I was like, yeah, I'm actually calling you about the policies you already have. And then I ended up finding out he's paying like 900 bucks a month for two different insurance policies. I was already going to cancel one of them, and he was overpaying for the other one. Got him switched over, helped him cancel the other one, and closed him for like 500 bucks a month on a policy. And it's that simple. And they're very appreciative at the end of the day. It's just getting past the initial, like, not interested because they've been called so many times. So instead of acting like another broker that's just calling them, make it, persuade as, the person that got them set up was one of your underwriters. That's the easiest way to go about it.
Yep. And just being very assumptive.
Yep, for sure.
Anastasia asked a good question. She said, how many prezzies does it take for you to have a 30K week? And what was the closing percentage on that?
I'm really bad at tracking my numbers, if I'm being completely honest. But I'd say if I'm doing a presentation, I'm closing at least 2 out of 3.
Which is pretty
I
standard.
feel like if I can get someone on the phone for longer than 2 minutes, I feel like I'm closing it. 90% of the time.
What's your mindset when you get somebody on the phones? What's going through your head?
Nothing really. It kind of just takes over automatically, and like just like everything I've went through, I automatically like it just comes to my head of like different like rebuttals to say and like different directions to go if depending on how they respond. And I think I've just built that over time and just having so many conversations. Um, but I guess how can I put them in a better position is the most simple way to put it. Or how can I save them money? Because if someone say has $300,000 in coverage and they're paying 700 bucks a month, but they don't even need $300,000 in coverage, I always ask them why they went with the certain amount of coverage or why they went with a specific carrier. And a lot of times they'll just be like, I don't know, it's just what they gave me and I went with it. So from there, you have a lot of different options to go off of in terms of, how much coverage do they really want? Or, what are their main goals with this policy? If it's, there's living benefits, cash value, or just lasting the rest of their life, covering the whole mortgage, whatever it may be.
Based on, I've heard you on the phones, but let's say hypothetically, I've never heard you on the phones, and this was the first time I had heard you, guys, pay attention to how Cruz is explaining what he's saying. How many times has he started with, I ask them? He said that if we were counting, probably over 10 times so far on the call. And I think a mistake a lot of new agents make is they over explain or they overshare information. So I've heard agents on the phone where it's like, bro, they're good. Like they got the sale and they're like going for the close. And then I don't know if it's a subconscious thing or whatever it is, but then they self-sabotage themselves and they keep talking and they keep talking. They share a little bit more. And it's like before they know it, they're way down here and they try to bring it up to the close. I'm like, dude, you just need to shut up and help this family. Like you just need like it gets to a point where it's like you just need to have the level of assumptiveness and confidence to close it down. But
Let me ask you, Jonah, what do you think the biggest downfall that you like see people have in that aspect? Like of just, having the close and then, pushing themselves out of it somehow because they're oversharing. I know it's a hard question. There's a lot.
two things to that. No, that was good. I'm glad you asked that. Number one is they don't ask enough questions. They overshare. And then they oversell it, which then they realize they're being sold. And then number two is they don't have the level of confidence and assumptiveness within themselves to ask for the close. Like, I think people are really good at self-sabotaging themselves. So the reason I ask is what's going through your head when you get somebody on the phones is you're not thinking, oh, like, I hope I can get a sale. Like, I hope I can close this person. Oh, I hope they need life. No, dude, you're like, hey, what are we gonna figure out here? How am I gonna help this person? Like what can I explain? You're already turning the creative side of your brain on instead of wishing and wanting. It's like, hey, no, like I'm here to help you and let's get this done. So what would you say your average size premium is? Do you close pretty average deals or do you close bigger deals?
I'd say average. I'd say anywhere. I'd say probably like 150 to 200.
Okay, decent. You've
I
closed
rarely ever sell anything below like $75.
you've closed a decent amount of fatties though, and you
I
show large.
have I have last week, yes.
What helped you to get into larger premium deals and sell larger AP policies?
I don't think there's anything in specific, honestly. I think it's just luck of the draw. Because I mean, you can't change whether or not someone has money and wants a large amount of coverage, and they don't care about paying 5, 6, $700 a month. You can't change that. Um, so I mean, it's really just pick of the draw. Honestly, someone who sells a bunch of very large policies all the time, and it blows my mind, is Thomas. And it completely, I just have no idea because he sits right next to me in the office, and I'm always looking at him like, dude, you just threw 8K up on the board for like the second or third time, in the past few days. How is that even possible?
Is Thomas
So
on this
yeah,
call?
he might be. He's probably
Thomas,
dialing, honestly.
he's in a Prezi. That's acceptable. He's in a Prezi. Okay, but when you're, what would you say to the agent that's, maybe they need that confidence boost because at the end of the like what I really want to hammer on is your level of confidence on the phones, and I think fundamentally before like the what ultimately makes or breaks an agent above sales training, above knowledge, above everything, it's mindset. It's just mindset. So that's what I really wanted to hammer on, and you did a really good job of explaining it, is just bring out the proper confidence in themselves. But what are some tactical? Because I want to bring this down a little bit from the mindset perspective and just like tactical things that people can apply. Because everybody knows like, oh, like, dude, I know I need to be more confident, but like that doesn't help me because I still struggle with confidence. So like, what are some tactical tips and advice that agents can apply to gain more confidence within themselves?
I'd say honestly, the biggest thing, and I said this on the last call that I did, is we work over the phones. No one can see what you look like. No one can see what you do on a daily basis. No one cares. It's literally you just talking to them one on one. It does not matter. Like none of that matters. It's simply just how you display yourself. Like you can be this whole other person that you are on the phones, different from what you are in real life. And you have the ability to do that. Building outside confidence is completely different from building confidence over the phone. And no one is different. Like I came into this and I sucked. And I was very aware of that. And honestly, I'm good with like tough criticism. I like when someone, kind of gets in on me and tells me like what I'm doing wrong or that I could be better. So it kind of just pisses me off. And you're like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Um, so just not it's nothing crazy. It's literally just like not accepting being average and understanding that no one who is producing more than you is legitimately, has some like special crazy, part of their character that's making them be able to produce. Like you'll see in like virtual sales, there's guys out there that are, fat and not the best looking that are, making a bunch of money. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. It just matters if you can, display the confidence over the phone. So even if it's fake confidence, find some way to generate it and display it to the client or family, whatever it is. Because if you can do that, it's simple. Like you don't need to, have every part of your life figured out, flattened out where, you're ripped and doing everything, making 100K a month already. It's just fake it till you make it. It's as simple as that. And then you will make it as long as you're consistent with it. Confidence is something that obviously it takes time to build, but you will build it once you start seeing the results that you're looking for and once you start implementing the things that actually work.
Well said. If I could add to that, where not to be that person where, oh, back in my day we had to walk to school uphill both ways, but back when I was in person, I remember going up to homes, and this was when I was 20 years old, but I looked like I was 16 years old, didn't have a beard, and I would walk into these homes and I'd be like, man, like, dude, these people are gonna judge me because I don't own a home, or I'm young, they're older. Remember, like I like you get in, it's easy to get in your head and think all these things. And I'd be going in there, and we didn't back when I started, like, we didn't have a script. It's just like walk in there and close. And like my sales training was, hey, call them up and be nice, tell them you're coming over. It's like, okay. And then I'd be in there to be trying to going through it. And then I'd be sitting there, and John would be 6'5", 250 pounds, like telling him like he doesn't care about his family, like, and just like and trying to have the level of confidence and like, oh shoot, like what do I say now? Versus over the phone, it's they can't see you. You're not sitting in their home. When you go in person, that's why I love hiring guys that have done in-person sales, because it is harder in a certain aspect, because when you go to somebody in person, they're judging you based on the way you look, the way you dress, your handshake, your eye contact, your mannerisms, your energy, the way you smell, like all of these different things. Versus over the phone, as long as you sit there, got the script in front of you, read the script, sound confident, stick to the process, you're going to close it down. And also, one thing that helped me a lot, Daniel G talks about this, where he says, nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit that you went 0 for 10 and didn't close anybody. Nobody cares and nobody knows. And also, nobody cares and nobody knows that you closed the last 10 people in a row and you think you're God now. Either way, it's like every family you sit down with is a new opportunity. They don't know if you've been doing this for a day or 10 years. So just freaking help the families.
I tell everyone I've been doing this a long ass time. Like when I'm on the phone with them, like if they're like telling me about their policy and I'm like, man, I've been doing this a long time and there's no reason you should be in that position they put you in. And then you just build value from there. And it's super easy. Now, you got to be like, one thing I don't know if I should be proud of. I'm a good bullshitter, and that's not in like in the terms of like bullshitting about the actual policy because I don't ever recommend doing that. I always try and write good business, um, especially if you know what you're doing. But bullshitting in other aspects, like bullshit in some ways so that you can relate to them about what kind of dog they have. Tell them that, oh, my brother has one of those, blah, blah, blah. Just bullshit. It doesn't matter. Like they're little white lies that aren't gonna, put you or them in a bad position. It's just you have to understand that over the phone, it's really hard to build trust, especially nowadays, and hard to keep people there with you. And if you're helping them, then there should be no reason why you can't do those little things to build that trust if it's not putting them in a bad position or whatever it may be. Because 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to talk to those people again until, or if you do an annual review or something of that sort. So it's just relating to them in some way. Is going to build a lot of trust because you already have a major disadvantage, talking to someone over the phone. No one wants to trust you. There's so many scams going on nowadays that it's not easy. So giving them like little pieces that'll be personable that they can relate to, and they're like, oh, okay, this is a real guy. He might actually be a cool guy. I kind of want to work with him, especially if he's helping me. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't. So I don't know if that's good advice, but I wouldn't say it's like bad advice because I mean it works, and there's nothing necessarily, in my eyes, wrong with it.
Claudia's comment, you've always been doing this a while and you have a lot of kids. 5 kids. But like here's the thing is like, guys, there's a ton of rapport you can build with people, and there's a lot of common ground where it's like you don't even have to make anything up. It's like a lot of us have dogs, or we have friends that have dogs, or we have siblings, or we're from certain areas. Like that was why I loved calling South Dakota leads, because it's like boom, instant rapport right there. Like there's not a lot of people in South Dakota. It's like so it's like you can easily find some common ground about like where you're from, or this landmark, or oh yeah, every summer we take vacation in the Black Hills. Have you been to such and such restaurant? Oh, do you guys have been to that? dude, get their burger there. They have the best burger or whatever it is. Like there's 100 different things you can build rapport on. So but that's to what you said, Cruz, building rapport and finding commonality is important and is a big deal because we as humans we're very tribe-like. And we want to be with people and trust people that are in the same tribe as us, very clicky. Like that's why sports teams are a big deal, or CrossFit communities, or run clubs, or different things like book reading clubs. Like people just want to feel like they're in the right tribe with their people. So if you can and like we're so conditioned to do that because back when we were hunters and gatherers is like the only people you could trust were in your tribe because everybody else is probably out to get you or kill you. So it's like if you can get on the phone with them, and I'm not saying build 15, 20 minutes of rapport, but like find some commonality, find some common ground and show like, hey, I'm on your side, I'm with the right tribe, and like, okay. Then that's leading to their subconscious mind, and like that relaxes them down of okay, I can trust this person. So we're going on about 15 minutes here. I want to open it up for anybody that has questions. Feel free to unmute or drop in the chat. Don't be shy. Cruz, I think you killed it, bro.
Get easy. Not
Go
hit
to
me with anything that's gonna stump me.
hit him with something hard. Cruz, I was on the phone with Turner today, and he was telling me that you said you agreed to if you don't hit 80K, we get to shave your head. Is that true?
I have considered shaving my head, but I don't know if I ever said that.
Well, you're gonna hit it, right? So it's not gonna be an
I'm
issue.
gonna hit it, but I'm
All
not putting that agreement in place.
right, bro.
There was just a comment.
So like when you're building concern in the replacement, what do you typically build rapport with? Um, Give us a few different frames.
Um, so a lot of the times, honestly, like I will never put anyone in a worse position, never. Because then you're just that kind of just weighs on you long term, and obviously it's just bad karma.
Yep.
So I think
And
it's more of
can I stop you right there? I really want to emphasize that. Of like, guys, if you have the mindset of replace by any means necessary and tell them whatever you're gonna tell them, a lot of us know agents like that. I promise you, those people will not have success long term. God does not bless that type of behavior because what Cruz said, it weighs on you. And it's like, okay, I might have made a sale now. I might have had a good week and made 10 grand. But anybody that's not selling ethically, they don't have success long term because that takes a toll on your mindset. I don't care how bad eventually you're gonna feel like shit about yourself and you're gonna lose self-confidence and you're gonna be like, and you're gonna get burnt out and you're gonna hit a wall. And you're gonna be like, dude, what am I doing? So there's been many times where I've been in the position where I could have replaced a policy and I could have they would have trusted me. They fully trusted me. They loved me. But like I walked out of there and I really believe that that's what's allowed me to have long-term success and have longevity because I've never jeopardized a client or never put them in a wrong position. So I really want to emphasize that of like, guys, selling good ethical business, that's everything.
that's where I say that knowledge is important when it comes to like policy replacements because you can put somebody in a worse position and not even know it. So learning the products and what different carriers offer is super important. Wouldn't say it's as important, when you're first starting, kind of got to get the gist of everything. But once you have it down, understanding that and like the differences between different carriers is super, super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, guys, show Cruz some love. Drop some love in the chat if this was fire and you took value from it. But bro, we're out of time. But I want to say that I remember when I met you for the first time, I was like, this kid's gonna be a big deal. And you're gonna be a big producer. So we're blessed to have you on the
Good.
team. And thank you for hopping on the call today and pouring into everybody.
Happy to be here.
you drop some knowledge. So God bless everybody. We'll talk soon.
Later.